What is up, everybody? We are live NBA Hardwood show breaking down the NBA slate for you guys. We got 2 games today. We got to bring on our guy AP first before we break down the games and talk about some NBA. It's the weekend. Tons of stuff going on. He's got the MLB playbooks he's juggling. We got MMA show just ended, and we got everything going on today. So, AP, how is the day going for you?
The day's going excellent. It's always a pleasure to be on with my guy Mangone. We're going at it a little bit. Not really, but a little bit of mistaking kind of what I was saying. The last time okay. First off, like, how awesome is the NBA playoffs? Like, I feel like every game almost, even though like some of them are blowouts, I still feel like the narrative of the entire series makes it really enjoyable. It's been true for even Boston, even though Boston, it's like, and we're going to obviously talk about it, but it's like they're 2 different teams, and it's like they can be so frustrating. And I even think, so we've seen this 2-game series now for 2 slates, like May 7th and May 9th. We've already had this 2-game slate. It's played out twice. And so I always think these type of slates where we have that recent history makes it even more interesting. But I don't know, man. I think these playoffs are a ton of fun. I thought last night's games were great. I feel like the Nuggets, I mean, that slate provided just such a nice edge and nice opportunity. The Nuggets players were all like sub 20% owned. Like Jamal Murray was 14%. Aaron Gordon was under 15%. Jokic obviously got a little bit of ownership, but not enough. And so I think just having these matchups every day or every other day, it's a ton of fun. And, I think we all do a good job of breaking it down. I mean, shout out to the crew yesterday. They had a nice call on Alec Burks. They were all on the Nuggets money line as well. So I think just as a community and overall, it was like a really awesome day. And the playoffs in general has been amazing so far.
Yeah, I can't tell you that we're going to get the Alec Burks call for you guys, but we'll try, right? We'll look at it. We'll dive in and break it all down. And yeah, it is a lot of fun, AP, right? Like we had teams coming back home. I always love game 3 and game 4 because it's always like the teams are typically down 2-0, or you get the team like Denver that needs to win that game or it's over, right? Like there's just a lot on the line. And of course, once you get to game 6 and 7, then it's the best. The Pacers-Knicks series has clearly been like the most fun so far. That game was awesome last night. It was definitely a prayer that he threw up, but hey, the prayers go through sometimes. So that was awesome. And of course, we'll talk about Boston, and I think they're going to be fine and bounce back, AP, but we'll see. I know they're the reason.
They're going to be fine. They're the most talented team. Like, and I have a couple gripes for Boston, and I can save those until we get to that game, but they're by far the most talented team. Like individually as players, they have the most talent, but it's can they play that team basketball? That's like what they lack. And it's like they don't value possessions. That's what frustrates me.
I think the reason people get very frustrated is because I think their team is built. It's definitely lives and dies by the 3. And the way 3-point variance works is when it goes really well, obviously it goes well. But when it doesn't, it's a disaster. And that's why when they lose, they can lose so poorly because of the 3-point variance. It's why I personally am not as frustrated when they lose by like 20 in games, because I just think it's all 3-point variance. The only worry I have is we did see it last year. That's the one concern. And then the second concern is I think they make the finals, but in the finals, will Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown like kind of step up on defense and be those wing defenders that they need? Because they don't have like amazing wing defenders like they've had in the past. Like Marcus Smart is a great perimeter defender who they had in the past. Yes, they have Drew Holiday, who's a great defender, but they do have him in that perimeter defender role at times, but they like to make him roam too. So I just think they need a little bit more perimeter defense, and then they'll be fine. But we'll have to see how it all shakes out. I hope the Knicks are healthy. I know someone in the chat, Alex, is talking about the Knicks. I hope they're healthy when they get to Boston, or if they get to Boston. That should be interesting as well. And Don asking the question of the day. Would you all take LeVert, TT, any lineups today? I'm assuming that's Tristan Thompson. I played 10% Tristan Thompson the last time. We'll see if I play him again today. We'll break it down and talk about it because this slate is very similar to the last slate for sure. And I got some takes for sure to discuss. AP, do you want to dive into it, or you got anything else to say?
I mean, I'm not taking Tristan Thompson. I mean, that game plan, like, I think it's even like tough for Jared Allen. I mean, look at like Luke Cornett. I was high on him. I thought he was going to be a great play. I thought they needed size. He got cooked. He got absolutely cooked, and they had to go away from him. The game played a little bit smaller. Evan Mobley was insanely efficient and just overall insane. Like if the Cavs can bring that plus what Donovan Mitchell's doing right now, they're undefeated at home in the playoffs. Mind you, that was against Orlando, but still they're undefeated right now in the playoffs. I think tonight's game is going to be a ton of fun, but we should probably start with the OKC one first.
Yeah, we're going to start with the OKC one. I will say just the injury news. Obviously the Jared Allen stuff is huge. He was at shoot around today. So like you're assuming he's playing, at least I'm assuming he's playing. I'm building my lineups based on that right now. Of course, if he's not, I will adjust everything, but I'm building it as so. So I'm assuming that he is in for this game at home. But yeah, let's dive into this OKC game because I think there's a lot to talk about here. The Dallas Mavericks are pretty tough to roster at times, right? Just because they have so many different guys you can go to, and Luka has all the ownership that goes to him, or not the ownership, the usage that goes to him. You got Kyrie Irving, who gets a ton of usage as well. And then all these other guys, it's just hard to pick out which ones are the best. For me, I think Derek Jones Jr. specifically, and I'll pull up on Saber just so we can go to each player. But Derek Jones Jr. is the safest minutes-wise, right? Just minutes. He's going to be on the court for 30-plus pretty much every single game. Even if he got in a little bit of foul trouble, he'll still probably get that 30-plus. He's 4.4K. He's one of those bench guys I'm definitely looking at. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are two that I really think are interesting. I considered on last slate, which is the same amount of games, pretty similar salaries. I considered doing a rule of at least one of Lively and Gafford. I did not do that rule, but I do think that these big men are basically going to crush them, at least one of them every single time. Doesn't mean it's going to be on the winner for sure, but I do think both these big men are certainly in play. Those are like the three guys that I like the most. Gafford and Derek Jones are the two that I like the most from a value perspective. Then we slide over to Tim Hardaway Jr. What happens with him at 3.6K? He had a huge game, but if the shots don't fall, what do we think he'll do there? Then you have Josh Green, who I think everyone wanted to play Josh Green a little bit last slate because of how much value he provided for your lineups. I don't know if I want to go back to him, but he's definitely in the conversation for sure. And then as we kind of keep going on, PJ Washington, he had that humongous game. And do we go back to the well at 5.8K? So AP, I'll go over to you. Let's just talk Dallas first, and then we'll slide over to OKC. But I think there's a lot of good plays to look at here. What are you doing with this Dallas side?
Yeah, and let me kind of talk about just a little bit like why I think this slate is interesting in these two matchups specifically. So regular season and in the playoffs, I'm always a pace guy. So I like to know, how many possessions that we're likely to see, or if we can project how many possessions that we're likely to see. Obviously, more possessions, more opportunity to score fantasy points, which is what we want. So you get a faster pace. It's going to be typically a better environment for fantasy scoring. And when you look at this, so the Clippers-Mavs series averaged 175 possessions per game throughout that series. So far, through two games, we've seen 174 and then 189 possessions in their last game. Dallas won 119, 110. And comparing that to Boston-Cleveland, that is averaging, so they had 168 possessions in their last game and 170 in the game before that. So you're going to have a pretty big disparity between pace between these two teams. The problem is the rotations, because then that's the other big thing that I factor heavily, especially in the playoffs, knowing rotations. That's why we like New York. That's why we like Thibs. We know what he wants to do. We know what that rotation is going to be. I think the Mavericks, and I think more so the Thunder, have mainly the Thunder, the more unpredictable rotation, especially when we're trying to project and predict matchups. So that's like the dilemma. It becomes a pace versus, projected rotation kind of dilemma for myself. And I don't have the answer yet. But specifically with the Mavericks, the other thing too is when you look at the two optimal lineups from the first two from May 7th and May 9th, same matchups and everything. They've been very similar. It was Donnie Mitchell, LeVert, Dort, Mobley, Gafford, Pritchard, PJ Washington, SGA. That was on the 9th. And then it was Pritchard, Donnie Mitch, Jaylen Brown, Mobley, Gafford, SGA, Wiggins, and then Jalen Williams on the 7th. No Luka, no Kyrie. Anywhere to be found. The other thing, though, is their prices come down. So Luka, his price has come down, I think, five or 600 since game one in the series. So he's obviously becoming a little bit more attractive from a price standpoint. And you just got to think like we're going to see one of these Luka games eventually. Like Kyrie's been awesome in his role, but unless he just really gets going and is on, those two are just constantly taken away from each other. So it does become kind of difficult. And where Luka, when you factor in the pace, more opportunities, kind of like what I talked about, he had some close to ceiling type of games against against the Clippers. So we know the opportunity was there. And one of them came in one of their home games. I can't remember which one it was, but I think he put up like 65 DK points. And so I think for Luka to be optimal with the pricing that we have in the later game between Donovan Mitchell, Tatum, that are all, priced upper 8K, lower 9K range, it like becomes a numbers game, honestly. Like you need Luka to have one of those big nights, maybe 70 plus, maybe like a Jokic last night. And that game didn't even, that game blew out. So that's where like it becomes a little bit tougher with the studs. I think between the two, between Luka and Kyrie, it's definitely Luka for me. But then we need value to make it work. I like your call on Gafford or Lively. I'm a little bit cautious with rules because I do think there are on a 2-game slate. If you want to get unique, like again, I haven't ran anything yet, and I probably won't have anything or any of these type of builds. But if you're multi-entering and you have a Lively and Gafford build, that's fairly unique. That's one way to increase your chances of having a unique build. So the other thing that I think is interesting too, and one thing that I've considered is grouping the Tim Hardaways, Josh Green, Derek Jones, and I would put Lively in there and Exum as well. I don't think he's going to factor in very much. Maybe even PJ Washington. Maybe leave PJ Washington out, but no more than 2 max of any one of those guys. And then you can make a similar rule on the OKC side. So as far as like players going, I love how Josh Green's playing. I think he's fine. Do I think he's like a lock or anything like that? No. Tim Hardaway Jr. we finally woke up. He was super efficient last game, made a ton of his shots. Did he break the slate? No, he wasn't even on the optimal lineup. So is he going to be a good value? Someone that I'm on? Yes, but I would be cautious like chasing him. Now, the fact that it's at home, we love the role players when they're at home. I think it's going to be a better environment for him as well. My last comment here is Derek Jones. Like, I feel like he becomes the forgotten man. Let's not forget how good he was in the Clippers series at home. He had one of those games where he absolutely broke his slate. I think this matchup could be even better. When you think of where all the attention is at for OKC, it's all on Kyrie, it's all on Luka. And so Derek Jones, if he can hit his shots, if he can hit his threes, which we saw him do at home, he's primed to have a big day. So I think out of all of those value plays, instead of chasing the THJ game, it's got to be Derek Jones for me. But then I do like Josh Green as well at 3,400.
I agree 1,000%. So Derek Jones is one. We'll bump his projection up, right? We'll give him a bump. I'm going to give Lively a slight bump. I agree. I'm not going to do I wouldn't do a rule of max, so like just only one of Gafford and Lively, but I just don't think it's the craziest idea. The only reason I didn't do it the other slate, and this goes to my question about forward being good that I got made fun of the other day on the show for, is if you look at the guard position in AP, hear me out and tell me what you think.
I think I missed that. I definitely think I missed that.
Well, I said forward's the better position. The reason I said it, and I may have used the wrong verbiage that I was trying to get across, but if you looked at guard, you understood play Donovan Mitchell, play SGA. There were no value guards to like, right? Like there was Cason Wallace. Like if you look at this slate and you run raw projections, you know what you're going to get a lot of right now? Isaiah Joe. Does anyone really like Isaiah Joe? Like, no. The point is there's not a lot of value guards, but there's a lot of value forwards. There was spends at forwards. There was mid-tier forwards. there was value forwards. Also, I will say a lot of the guards and forwards that you can go one or the other, like Jalen Williams, you could put him at point guard or a small forward, but you'd rather put him at small forward because you want him to play like SGA and Donovan Mitchell. We also don't have Donovan Mitchell as like this elite value as he was on the last slate. So that's the reason for it. There were just more options at the forward position to play. And I do feel that way today as well. If you look at the guard, yeah, you want to play Derek White. You want to play, SGA, but Luka's expensive. I mean, not saying you can't play Luka. I'm definitely going to have some, but all the guards were expensive, and all the value guards are Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe, which I just don't feel super comfortable with. That we'll transition over to in a second. But I agree, AP. Lively, I gave a little bump. I gave that nice bump to Derek Jones Jr. I'll give him another one just because I do really like him for a lot of the points we both said. I like Gafford as well. PJ Washington, I'm curious if we'll get much of him at this projection. Do you want to go back to PJ, AP?
So, I mean, here's the thing, and this is kind of the recipe. When you look at it, the Mavs, they shot just under 50% from 3-point range. A lot of that was PJ Washington. What was he, 7 for 11 from range? Just incredible. Yeah. Now we're back at home. Like, I don't think you could just like straight up fade a guy like that, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he busted. And that's what I'm saying. That's where I like the idea of maybe it's Derek Jones. This guy, like out of all the guys that struggled on the road, specifically in both of these series, shooting the ball, it's been Derek Jones Jr. Where he thrived was back at home. I feel like that's a trend that could continue. And so I'm not fading PJ Washington at all. I'm going to have him in the pool, but I have far more interest in Derek Jones because the opportunities have been there. I'm trying to think. He was I don't have his stats up in front of me, but he was horrible. Wasn't he like 2 for 10 or something? I'm sure our guy Glock has it.
He was 3 for 12 last game.
3 for 12. So I was pretty close. I mean, he couldn't hit anything, but look at that. 18 fantasy points still. And we're only projecting him for 20. I mean, with those same opportunities, if he hits a few more buckets, man, 20, 21, 22 type of projection, I think is really interesting. And maybe what that will do is cap the Aaron Wiggins, the Isaiah Joes, which I do think those guys are very much in play on the other side of this game. But I think from a value standpoint, I have a ton of interest in Derek Jones. Best defender. He gets wide open looks. Maybe there's less of those in this game being at home, but he's gonna have opportunity in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's transition to OKC. Just letting you guys know, we will probably have a hard stop at.
I think we need to bump Luka up just a little bit too. I don't think he's gonna like sniff mini builds at 63. Like give him 65 at least, just so that when we run this, just to see what it looks like.
No, I'm with you. I like that idea, and I was getting a lot before. That's why I didn't. But let's see what it does at 65. I think that makes sense. Also want to say we're gonna have a pretty hard stop at the what's it called? 1 o'clock for me, 3 o'clock Eastern. That way we can get this all straightened out. So we'll probably spend 15 minutes per team, and we're a little overboard right now. So let's slide over to OKC right now. And this is a really interesting spot, AP. I was in the Discord chat, and if you're not a member over at Run Pure Sports, you can use that code RPS15 to get 15% off and hang out in there and talk about the games. But we talked a little bit about how do we handle this bench situation, right? With all these Isaiah Joes, the Cason Wallaces. Listen, we like Chet Holmgren, we like Jalen Williams, SJ. All those guys are really good. I do think you could see some of these guys struggle a little bit on the road, so I might be a little cautious with them. But I think Jalen Williams is my favorite of the three. If I had to pick one between Chet, SGA, and Jalen, it'd probably be Jalen, then it's SGA, and then it's Chet Holmgren. That would be my rankings of the studs. Lou Dort, he's that clear condom play. Just throw him in, as JBC says, for his 22 and call it a day. Definitely don't mind Lou Dort. And then this is where the bench stuff gets interesting. What do we do with these bench players? For me, I've noticed that I want to just play the game of I don't know what's going to happen. Now, we did get a quote that just came out pretty recently that the OKC coach is not going to tell us. He's like, I don't talk about my starters. I'm not going to start now, right? I haven't talked about them ever. Why would I start during the playoffs? It just makes no sense. There is a chance that they could take Josh Giddey out of the starting lineup. If he's out of the starting lineup, whoever the starter is, which it could be Aaron Wiggins. That's the guy that we've been speculating a little bit. He would be clear chalk and a pretty good play to get exposure to. But the way I want to handle OKC is I want to just spread that ownership out. If I'm getting 80% Isaiah Joe, which when I did my first run, that's what I got. And I think it's because the shooting guard position just is really weak. I don't want to do that. I want to just embrace the idea that I have no idea who it's going to be. So I'm going to spread my ownership out. I think the way I would rank it is I might rank it Isaiah Joe first just because of how rough the shooting guard position kind of is overall, especially with us not having the ability to get Donovan Mitchell today. I also want to kind of play Jason Tatum today because I think he comes out with a big game. So I might have to spend down at some of my guard spots. So I do lean Isaiah Joe as my number one option. Wiggins likely is 2, and then I'd say Cason Wallace probably 3. But I do think there's a chance that Cason Wallace is in there more than people think. Obviously, ownership will impact that, and if Aaron Wiggins is starting, he's going to be clear chalk. But I want to spread that ownership out. I don't want to have 80% Isaiah Joe like my first run, and then have 10% Cason Wallace and like 10% Aaron Wiggins. I want that to be spread out a bit. I also didn't mention Jalen Williams, who is a pretty intriguing option, who's been pretty good. The problem is he is a center on this slate, and it just depends if you want to use that at the center position. But AP, I'll go over to you. You know I love to talk about how positions matter, and I talked about it a lot there. Do you think the positions matter for these bench OKC guys? And then how do you handle the OKC studs?
Yeah, I think Aaron Wiggins gets the start. We saw that at the start of the third quarter in the last game. I mean, Josh Giddey, really bad matchup for him. He's a liability defensively. He needs the ball in his hands, and he hasn't been hitting shots. Like, he had that one game, it was game 3, I think, in the first series, but that was the Pelicans. Like, they had that series in the bag. I don't think we see like a nuke type of Josh Giddey game because he needs, like, the ball needs to be in his hands for him to get to work, or he needs to be hitting shots, and he hasn't been hitting anything. He was a minus 20 in 10 minutes, just not good, and played he got barely any run at all in the third quarter. So I think it becomes Aaron Wiggins versus Isaiah Joe. I don't think it's going to be Cason Wallace. He's another guy that needs the ball in his hands as well. So it has to be Aaron Wiggins, in my opinion. And we saw a tighter rotation there in the second half. So I think what you do is just let's get very aggressive on the under on Josh Giddey. Let's over project then Aaron Wiggins. And then, Isaiah Joe from like a shooting standpoint. We don't want to get like crazy aggressive with those guys. We don't want to I don't think it's like a lock button type of value play. But it is someone that we want to be overweight or at least in line with the field. If the field was like at 65, 70%, maybe you do consider then locking him in. And if we assume Aaron Wiggins is going to start, I mean, that would definitely be something that we would want to consider. Another thing, too, to kind of handle the situation so you're not getting multiple of these kind of scrubs, these backups into your lineups, you can go to stack exposures real quick and just eliminate the 6-man, 5-man, and 4-man stacks. I think this series does set up really well. So I go to stack exposure. There you go.
Yeah, you do.
No, you're right. I was wrong. Team stacks.
Team stacks. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Team stacks. So 6-mans are gone. 5-mans are gone. Would you get rid of 4-mans? So
I didn't yesterday for the Knicks. They were the only team that I allowed a 4-man for. That's just because we know how tight that rotation was. This setup, I think, works well for unchecking that, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a lot of those builds with multiple scrub pieces in there. So I think we test it out, and we do for stream purposes.
Yeah.
And we see. So I do think it could work, and maybe increases your chances of being somewhat unique since people that are overstacking a game might have some,
so you want
really egregious stacks out there.
You want to keep 4-mans or don't want to keep them?
I don't want to. So
okay.
3-mans and under. Yep. Yeah. So that should help to limit our.
The only thing we could do is we could run it and then get rid of the 4-mans. Do you want to do that just to see?
Let's do that. That's fine. Yep.
Okay.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, just because I like to see sometimes, like, it can give you a read of, is it pushing a lot of those or is it not? I think it's good to look at. And so let's do it that way. But I got rid of the 5 and 6-mans. I agree on that. The one I might leave is, because I'm with you, I'm probably going to do the 3-man thing like you said. I will say, if you do see egregious blowouts, we saw 5 Timberwolves win the other day, so that's something just kind of to note. Just depends what kind of script you are building. I probably will leave, if Wiggins starts, I will leave the 4-mans for OKC. The reason why is, like I said, man, shooting guard is not a good position. It's just not. And I do think Isaiah Joe.
That's why I think you're crazy for fading Donovan Mitchell, but we'll talk about that.
Well, I'm not saying I'm fading him. I'm just saying, like, that's one reason. That's one reason why people definitely think that. And then Big T said, better leave Dallas more open than 3 guys. They got insane value and Luka. Better leave Dallas more open than 3 guys. Do you understand what he's saying?
Yeah, keep 4-man stacks. I think we keep 4-man stacks. No, he makes a good point, especially if Derek Jones is hitting shots, because you got Derek Jones, you got Josh Green, you got their bigs too, and then you got Luka. So I think Big T makes a good point there. I think leave 4 stacks, but I can't see doing more than that.
But that's why when I always like to run it that's why I always run it before I get rid of the 4-man. I want to see what is it doing. What are the projections doing? Even that's why doing a raw run is really good, right? You've talked about that a lot on these Sabre shows. Just do a raw run and see what it's doing. Sometimes they push 5 and 6-mans and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Why is it doing that? And you kind of can gain some information from that for sure. But all right, let's go back to OKC real quick and then we'll button it up. SGA I bumped up slightly. Jalen, I'll bump up one more. Do you like Chet? I was going to bump Chet down just because I kind of like getting some of these value centers a little bit in there. What did you think of Chet?
I mean, Chet's a guy that I'm just never going to fade. The price is really nice. I mean, the opportunity is there too, especially when you look at from game 1 to game 2, we went 31 to then 36 minutes. OKC needs to tighten the rotation, and they need to play Chet as many minutes as they can. I've been really impressed with how good Gafford and Lively, like this combination have been, especially defensively, and we've seen it now for a little while. Just being someone that watched a lot of the Wizards games throughout the regular season, I always thought he was horrible defensively, but he's really stepped up. And obviously it's more of a team type of defense thing. PJ Washington has been good as well. But man, Chet really needs to start hitting some shots, and this game 3 would be a great time for him to start doing that. So I wouldn't bump him down. If anything, I would bump him up slightly, assuming that we have a little bit tighter of a rotation. But I wouldn't get crazy with him either. I just think he's always going to be a great upside type of play if you get the minutes and if he's hitting his shots. And then the steal and block potential as well is just massive for him.
Okay, and Big T, your QQ, we discussed this earlier, but my point was very simple. Shooting guard sucks a ton. You're going to get a shit ton of Isaiah Joe today. There are more plays at forward, but I can also show you based on your tournament plays list that you post every day, Big T, just so you know, you have more forwards as your value plays. There's better value at the forward than guard. There's more plays at forward today than guard. Everyone is just playing SGA, Luka, Jalen. That's the reason why. So, but okay.
Yeah, I think we want to be somewhat aggressive on Holmgren, especially if we see in the second half, it looked like we saw a tighter rotation. Now it's OKC. Like, they've been the most unpredictable team in the entire league, regular season and postseason. But if you look at the second half minutes and first half, I mean, Chet played a lot, and he's going to need to play a lot tonight. So I definitely wouldn't bump him down. If anything, I'd be slightly over.
Do you want to make
where we had him?
Do you want to make a rule a max of 2 of SGA, Jalen, and Chet, or no?
No, I wouldn't do that. And just looking at our projections and price, I don't think we're gonna run into too many of those type of builds.
All right, cool. All right, well, we're on track. We got a minute left to talk about OKC if you would like. Do you like where the projections are? I kind of raised all those cheap guys just up, but I could adjust it back down if you want. I raised them literally a 0.5 projection or one, nothing crazy. Yeah,
I mean, SGA, he's been awesome. The usage is just absolutely insane right now. I think this game and this series too comes down to the whistle. In game 1, we saw kind of a horrendous whistle. SGA got to the line a billion times, and then game 2, I thought it was a little bit more fair. So this is going to be one of those series or individual games where kind of how the ref dictates the game is going to have a big impact. If we knew the whistle was going to be weak or soft, like we saw in game one, Shea would be like a lock, man, because we know he's getting all those easy buckets. So he's an awesome play either way, but at 96, the price tag is coming up a little bit. I can't imagine like bumping him down. The usage is just so strong. They're running everything through him. We want to be aggressive on him. It's just if he doesn't get there, who's doing it? I think you nailed it perfectly. It's either Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren. So I like where we're at on these guys.
All right, cool. Let's shift over to let's go to Cleveland. I am not gonna love Cleveland today, I'm sure, because of Jared Allen's return. I'm assuming he returns. He was at shoot around. He could obviously not, but that's obviously stuff you have to update after, and that's how I'm just approaching it. AP, how are you going to approach it? Cleveland is a team that I don't think we're going to love a lot of these cheap guys anymore. A lot of these guys are not going to pop onto teams. I think LeVert has definitely earned himself a pretty decent role with this team right now. I think he's, it's a good series for him. It's a good fit. Better than at least Max Struss, it feels like. Garland is someone that he's only 6,100, which is a pretty cheap price tag, but I have been low on Garland for the most part throughout this series, and I'm going to continue to be low on him, I'm pretty sure. And then Jared Allen's only 6,800. Obviously, that's interesting in the mix. And then Evan Mobley at 7,600, which is a price increase. But, I mean, with Allen back, I think he's definitely a tougher play. And then Donovan Mitchell's 8'9", and shooting guard sucks. So talk about the Donovan Mitchell thing, because shooting guard being so bad, I think Donovan Mitchell could easily be, like, on the winner with just like 44 or 45 D-Gate points, as crazy as that sounds. And so talk about the Cleveland side, because it's definitely an important talking point.
Yeah, so Donovan Mitchell, I've always been, so just even going back to the Orlando series, I kind of got sucked into playing him a little bit, too much. Mainly it was a lot because his price was just so cheap relative to what his usage was out there on the court. Usage rate actually higher than what we're seeing even from like SGA. He just wasn't hitting shots. Orlando played him so well defensively. I was really, really impressed with, they played him much tougher than what I've seen Boston play Donnie Mitch at. So, and now they're back at home. It was ever since game 6 and then 7 against the Magic, something clicked for Donovan Mitchell, and he has been incredible ever since. So, like, I couldn't imagine fading him or being under on him. I'm well over on him again. I have his projection a couple ticks higher than what I'm seeing right there. We know they're back at home. He was better at home. We know that they're going to be extremely motivated. Out of any team that needs to get a win, it's this first game, game 3, right now back at home. They need to like embrace this game as if they went to Boston and they're 0-2. They need to like come into this one thinking that they're down 2, and they need to steal a win if they want any hope. It's just because Boston is just far more talented. And I think that comes on the heels of a big game from Donovan Mitchell. Max Strus, the other guy that I'm looking at as well. He had 2 of his best games in the Orlando series. Both of them were at home. So we talk about it all the time, role players at home. Max Strus, you have the positional flexibility, that shooting guard spot or small forward. I like him at 5K in that shooting guard spot. I think Jared Allen is, I don't know, it's kind of the awkward piece in here because I like that smaller lineup that they had with Karis LeVert. So maybe if Allen comes back, maybe it's like, maybe he doesn't get the run that we all think. Maybe it's they lean more on Mobley, which they should. Mobley's a much better fit against this Boston team. He can guard 1 through 5 if they're rolling out Al Horford. I mean, he's definitely one of the guys out there that can. He was incredible in game 2 defensively, and he was highly efficient. The problem when Allen is back, it muddies up things there in the paint. If we knew Allen was going to play big minutes, I'd have far more interest in a guy like Luke Cornett, who's just an absolute unit there in the middle. And so that's going to be kind of a good question mark as we approach that game. So if we think Allen's going to play, what's the minutes going to look like? If they're going to be a decent amount, then a guy like Luke Cornett comes into play for me. But I did like that smaller lineup that the Cavs rolled out. I think Donovan Mitchell. I think you go right back to Donnie Mitch, Max Strus. Evan Mobley. But Mobley a little bit tougher with Allen back, and the price tag is way up there. So that's definitely a tougher sell. So really it becomes Donovan Mitchell. And then what do you think about Garland versus LeVert? Like, do we see the Karis LeVert that we saw in game 2? I mean, ever since that closeout game against Orlando too, he's the other guy that's really, played up to a different level. I mean, he's playing like 26 plus minutes a game.
Yeah, so my lean was bump Garland down slightly, bump up LeVert a little bit for sure. And then someone asked about Max Struss. Can you talk about him? Because he is at home now. And that's where you can make the case, like some of these guys like that are priced up, like the Mobleys, Allen, and Garlands, they just might not, like Mobley smashed last game, and I had a ton of him. But obviously let's say Allen was out. I could see Mobley not do as well at home just because some of the other role players might step up and shoot better from 3-point range, right? That could be a benefit. So I'm not as high as on the mid-tier Cleveland guys, but I do like the idea of like these Strusses, LeVerts, and Okoros, like especially if Allen somehow missed. I just think there is opportunity for them to get there. Preferably LeVert. He's probably my favorite option, especially because he's shooting guard eligible. So what's your thoughts on those guys?
I think it was Max Struss who did a good job defensively on Tatum, but I think that was more Tatum settling for contested jumpers instead of getting to the rim, which I would like to see. We saw a few possessions, where it was Derek White, where he was running the rock. And like, that's what I want to see from Boston. I want to see Derek White get the offense set up. I want to see it run through him and Jason Tatum basically, but I want to see more passing. Like when Boston is at their worst is when they get stuck in this isolation game where they have empty, unserious possessions where one guy touches the ball. We saw it like 2 or 3 times with Drew Holiday. We see it all the time with Jaylen Brown. But the time where we see them clicking is when Derek White gets them set up, and then he's running things. You see more passing to find the open guy. That's like what we need to see from Boston, in my opinion. And I would like to see a tighter rotation too. Like I feel like all of these other teams are tightening their rotations, and then we'll see Jaylen Brown or one of these guys chilling on the bench for like 6 to 8 minutes at a time when I don't, and they're playing. I get it. Sam Howard was awesome in the regular season, but like we're in the playoffs now. Every game is important. Every possession is important. I'm just not seeing that from Boston right now. And so that's like the tough part. The other thing with Boston, it's like you see these individual isolated performances. So that's where it becomes it's like a Tatum or Brown, or it's like a Derek White or Jaylen Brown type of thing. That's where, and again, I'm not creating any rules. It's just kind of what we see and what you got to be careful. Like I think the Celtics are a much harder team to like full stack unless we got OT, unless we got a better pace type of game where there was less defense. I just don't think that we're going to see that in this series at all.
All right, well, let's make the adjustments to Cleveland. I wanted to leave Donovan Mitchell at the 45 just because to see how much he pops without even adjusting him, because I think that'll just prove the point I was getting at. But we like him, obviously. I wanted to move Garland down and then LeVert up. Did you agree on that? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, we'll do that. And then I definitely want to move LeVert up a bunch, Garland down. We'll do that. And then
I would move Max Strus up a little bit too. Role players at home. Yep. Strus especially was hitting shots in the and I think Orlando much better team against the perimeter versus Boston. And
I want to put Okoro up a little bit just because I want to embrace the idea of, well, what if Allen doesn't play? And I'm sure, if you are MMEing, right, you can make adjustments and move things around. So I want to at least have that flexibility, have a little bit of him in here. And then these other guys I don't really want much of. I mean, you're not going to get him at those.
I actually have a little bit of, actually it's probably negated now with Allen likely back, but I thought Niang would be a little decent, like more so over like Marcus Morris, but it does become a lot tougher with Jared Allen practicing and likely back tonight. So I don't think we can touch that in the main slate. Maybe it's more of like a showdown type of thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. So yeah, let's do that, and we'll keep Allen 30. So I don't know. We moved up the role players. I kind of like them a little bit more. Actually, I want to make sure LeVert's. Let's see. I want LeVert over Struss, so we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Let's go to Boston. So you just talked about how Boston's kind of tough to predict here, and get them all on the same team. I do think those guys can be on the winner together, like the Jalen's and the Jason Tatums. I mean, they can be on the winner if you get a blowout in that first game, right? If you're playing for that script, that's kind of how it works. So, like I said, I think Tatum is my favorite here, followed by Derek White. Like the way I would list them is Tatum, White, Brown. Then it'd probably be either Horford or Pritchard, and then Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a really interesting conversation today because he is 5,600. Like he just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So I think that's a really good talking point. I'd be curious to get your rankings on it because, again, I think shooting guard isn't great. And I think Derek White is my favorite shooting guard play on the slate. It's either him or LeVert. I guess I just like going a little bit cheaper than going all the way up to Donnie Mitch today. Not to say Donnie Mitch isn't a bad play, but I do really like this spot for Derek White and LeVert, who are both in this game. But break down these Celtics. I know they're kind of tough to break down, and we saw the whole Luke Cornett thing, so that was a whole mess that we don't know what to do with that situation. But I think these key guys, we definitely want to get exposure to them, but how do you want to get the exposure, AP? Like, how much is too much?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot of your boy, Jason Tatum, in these playoffs, and it's frustrating because he never comes out aggressive. He settles for what I would call like bad contested jumpers that he could get anytime. Like, and you're seeing these early in the possession too. There was so many different times where, 15, 16 seconds left in the possession. You see Jason Tatum with his little pullback, pull-up jumper from three and just clanks. Like he can get that shot any single time that he wants. What I felt was best was when Boston was running things through White. You saw more ball movement. You saw Tatum getting to the rim, kicking it out. That's like what I want to see. So like it's love when Derek White has the rock. Love when Tatum's driving to the rim and either getting a more efficient bucket or kicking it out, creating opportunities. That's what I want to see. I think we see more of that today as well. And so yeah, I'm definitely on board with Jason Tatum. When you think about Jaylen Brown's game, I mean, he's had a few moments where he's got hot, but he's not like a 3-point shooter. And if the one thing I would be concerned about with Jared Allen potentially back, I mean, man, that's a lot of size there in the paint. That's tough buckets now for Jaylen Brown. And so I like these shooters. I think we see more threes. And that would come from what? Jason Tatum, Derek White, and maybe Sam Hauser comes in and hits a couple. Now, again, I was just talking poorly about him, but he's obviously been a really good shooter, all season long. So, and then Peyton Pritchard, the other guy that's had a really monster role. He's the one I'm kind of curious. Like, I never feel too great about him. He had 2 good home games where he produced, especially DFS wise. But again, now we're on the road. I think we tighten the rotation up a little bit. I think it's more of like a ceiling type of game from like Derek White and Jason Tatum versus our Pritchards and Sam Hausers, being the difference makers. So like, what's your take on that? Because like, I think if Boston wants to get it done in game 3, tighten rotation, like Jason Tatum needs to do what these other teams are doing. But you don't have to play the whole game, but I want to see like 43, 44 minutes from Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, tighten up that rotation a ton. And then maybe, it's they still want Drew Holiday in there for defensive purposes, but I might be under on the bench players in this game, the Pritchards, the Sam Hausers, and then get over on the Jason Tatums, mainly and Derek White. And then Al Horford, I don't know, man. I think if Allen plays, maybe we see more Luke Cornett. I know Tillman got run in this last game too. I don't have a good read on those 2 guys, though. I think Cornett, if Allen plays, is a more interesting piece because he's like an absolute unit in there. And I don't think I can play Xavier Tillman. Like if they're playing Xavier Tillman at this point in the season, it's kind of a rough scene.
Yeah, you don't plan for a Luke Cornett unless you get the news that he's in. Like you just wait. You kind of like wait for that to make the adjustments on that. I'm not that interested. I want to
we got our boy Winky in there, so he's getting shots up, not practicing. I guess the verbiage there is really important. when planning for this. So, I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think he plays? Do you think he sits?
I'm more up in the air on it after seeing some of like he just wasn't like really practicing and stuff, but I don't know. I know. I just don't sweat it that much because in my MMA, I'll just be able to make the adjustments. Like I'm not really that worried. I'm not going to plan around it. I also think it's worth noting, like, listen, if Aaron Wiggins starts, like I think Aaron Wiggins is a better play than Isaac Okoro if I have to pick one. So like, I'm not totally worried about that. So that's kind of, I know it's not a great take, but it's just like, we just don't know exactly what's going to happen. I would lean out.
Well, dude, like Isaac Okoro was what, 5 for 6 in that last game? Like, yeah. I think all of those buckets came in the first quarter too. Like he was lights out. They were leaving him open. Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer that Aaron Wiggins would be a better play.
The fair point is they are leaving him open. Like they are like just being like, oh, Isaac Okoro has the ball in the corner, let him shoot. So he's getting the opportunities, but it is weird. He always just does it early on and then he just dies out. And it's because they also might not close with him too, right? There's that possibility. That's the same with Aaron Wiggins, though. He cannot close as well. But if Wiggins is starting, at least I know he's starting. I don't know if Jared Allen is in or out. So if you're stuck with Isaac Okoro later on, it could be ugly. But yeah, so based on the bench guys, I'm with you on like Hauser, Cornette, the Tillmans. I don't want to mess around with them. Sure, in Showdown, you can make the case. I don't want to do that here. I'm still going to buy in on Peyton Pritchard just because I'm telling you, if you look at those value guards, there's just not a lot of value guards to love. Like, it's just Isaiah Joe, it's LeVert, and like Cason Wallace. Like, it's not great. So I think, and I saw JBC, right, the other day, he shipped with Peyton Pritchard, and it's just because he fit to kind of help with the construction because you had to spend up for PJ Washington. You had to spend up for Evan Mobley on his team. And you also had to spend on Mitchell and SGA because of how weak the guard position was with the values. And that's why Peyton Pritchard just slid in there for his like 23, 24 points. So I don't want to take Peyton Pritchard out of the pool as much. I still want to have him in there. I still think he gets a decent amount of run. And also, if he gets blowout run for any reason, like he's the guy that crushes, right? Could Sam Hauser crush? Probably not. But like Peyton Pritchard always crushes in that blowout run because the ball's in his hands so much and his usage rate is just so good and the fantasy point per minute is so good for those like 4 or 5 minutes. So I don't want to pass up on him. Derek White's definitely the guy that I love. Him and
my only concern is if you think back to the Miami series, like Pritchard absolutely disappeared when the game went on the road. Now I'm with you. Maybe we see another road team blowing out the home team type of situation, like which seems like the new trend. And maybe he could cook there, but man, he like did nothing when the game went to Miami. So I know completely different game here, but that would be like my one concern. His home road splits seem very severe, and maybe it's more of a recency bias thing since he literally cooked them last 2 games with them at home.
Well, I made some adjustments. So I moved up Tatum and White the most. I moved up Brown slightly, basically for the reason you said, like we're going to just predict the uptick in minutes and the tighter rotation. I didn't move Drew Holiday. I moved Horford. What do you want to do with Drew? I don't know if you talked much about him, but like he is just so cheap. And as Steven asked in the chat, how would you prioritize him? I don't know what to do with Drew on this slate. You're going to get a lot of him at that protection and ownership. I'll say that.
Like the thing about him is you almost need to get there from like peripheral stats. I mean, Did you like offensively? He had so many like just horrendous like empty possessions that, and that's like they can't have that. And like look at you look at it from many different standpoints. So he's going to be in there for defensive purposes, much like a Jaden McDaniels type. So could he get there? Yeah, he definitely could get there. Or maybe he gets there from like Cleveland, leaving him wide open and maybe hits some shots. That's another path. I don't think you full fade a play like that. Like you said, there's just so many different combinations out there when you're multi-entering, and his price is now so low to where maybe a 24-point outing from him is enough in some, situations, but he's not someone I'm prioritizing on this slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's leave the projection where it's at. I'm curious what it does because when I ran stuff earlier and I didn't make any adjustments, I was getting a ton of him, but we adjusted up a lot of other players. So I think we'll get less, but we'll see. I'm going to run it right now. So we'll run, let's do 100.
My big stand on the slate is I want to be under on like the Pritchard, basically Pritchard. I just see so many. Let me look at the ownership projections. I mean, he has to be getting some ownership, right?
Yes, he's at 18% right now.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I can get there.
All right, well, we made the adjustments. I'm going to run it. And as we're running it, guys, if you could please hit that like, we would appreciate it over here at Rump Your Sports. Obviously, we got 40 minutes till the game starts, so we're going to have to get out of here in about 5-10 minutes to get our cores up, get everything adjusted with our lineups, helping you guys out in the Discord chat. And if you want more help in the Discord chat, use that code RBS15. It'll get you 15% off. Let's see. So AP, I guess as we're going on, let's do plays of the day right now as it's running. I have 2 play of the day options. So I'll let you go. If you somehow snag my play, then you snag my play and I'll go to the other one. But who's your guy, AP? Who is your play of the day today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to say like a Donovan Mitchell or like, unless like Donovan Mitchell is going to get no ownership, I guess I should look at that. Which that would be super surprising. No, he's going to get ownership. I'm going to go Derek White. I think Derek White, I think Boston really needs to consolidate the rotation. I think offensively, you need to run things more through White, through Tatum. And I think, man, they got to start hitting shots too. So I know kind of the role player on the road, but again, I don't like Derek White is different. Like he's really established himself this season. So I'm going to go Derek White too. It kind of covers that weak shooting guard spot as well. 6.6K on DraftKings. If he hits those threes, I mean, he could definitely be someone that is a difference maker on this slate.
I agree. That was going to be one of my guys, but that's okay. Also, I want to address Nick in the chat. He says, Aaron Wiggins start. What in the world they talking about? Well, if you watched last game, Nick, Josh Giddey, and in this series, Josh Giddey has been horrendous. Josh Giddey, he started the game, and then he didn't start the second half, and Aaron Wiggins did. So I don't think it's crazy to think that Aaron Wiggins could start this game. They also asked the Oklahoma City Thunder coach, they said, hey, any starting lineup changes with Josh Giddey? And he said, I don't talk about starting lineup changes, before the game. I'm not going to start in the playoffs. So there's a chance that Aaron Wiggins starts. We don't know. We'll have to see. But that's the reason we're talking about it. That's why we're speculating it. We have
Mangone. Derek White was also the hero on the road in that Miami series. I almost forgot about that. Remember that game where he just nuked, literally broke the slate for like 57.
Well, he's
been a hero on the road.
Yeah, he was going to be my guy, but that's okay that you took it. He actually is a Colorado great. One of the great Colorado basketball players, along with our guy Big T. But I'll give a different play of the day, and he's actually on this optimal right now that we got here without running the Sims. Which while I'm giving the play of the day, let me run the Sims. That way we can see what's going on with those. I'm going with Derek Jones Jr. I think it's a really good spot for him. 4.4K is a value. I like him at home. Minutes equal money, right? The old condom plays. I'm in. I think Derek Jones Jr. bounces back here. Strap me up with a condom today. I'm playing Derek Jones Jr. So.
I don't think I think the condom plays are like the Darius Garland and Drew Holiday. I don't think Derek Jones Jr. is a condom play. Would that be classified as a condom play? I mean, he's kind of a boomer bust guy. He's a 3-and-D specialist. And his home road splits are insane. So
I think condom plays are like the starters that are 3-and-D guys, at least for me. But they both kind of go that way. AP, before I change, look at the Sims and see what they're doing. Do you do uniques? Do you want to do 3 or 1 or 2? What do you want to do with the uniques?
Yeah, so in the playoffs, what I've been doing is I've been sorting by highest projected, and then I've been adding in either uniques or I've been capping players. I've been doing that in 20 max formats. I did that yesterday. So what I'll do is I'll just literally sort it by highest projected. Now, I do this when you're manipulating the projections kind of to reflect the biases that you want. And I think it makes a lot of sense versus because if you use the Sims there, it might not fully, like if you're altering the projections quite a bit, and if you're adjusting ownership too to go along with it, you might not get the results that you want. So I've just had better success right now on 2-game slates, sorting by highest projected. I do it differently for Showdown. For Showdown, I do run it using the Sims and sorting by risk adjusted, but I like doing it like this. And then where you can see like the max exposure, I'll start to add in caps there, like 80%, 85%, etc.
Yeah, gosh, I want to.
It's over to the right a little bit.
I know. I gotta go all the way. I gotta go all the way.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's harder when you're zoomed in on the screen.
The zoom in is like a mess for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to put caps and stuff like that, you slide this over. We'll put the mins over too, just in case you ever want to throw them in.
Yeah, and then sort it by your highest projected.
I think I did. Yeah. I did that already.
Yep.
I didn't. Sorry. Highest projected. Okay, let's see. And we currently have. I'm hitting it wrong.
Move the.
Yeah. All right. So
like what I'll do is like, and again, I'm surprised we're getting. Well, we're running 150. What I'll do is like, oh, maybe I want 45 max Tatum. I'll put a cap at 45 there. And then it just bumps up the next lineup. So I've had some success doing that. The caps to really pay close attention to are on the value plays. So unless it's like an Aaron Wiggins starting, which does feel like a very, very strong value play, I typically like to make sure that I'm not overly aggressive on any one. Like an Isaiah Joe would be a perfect example. Like I don't want 85% Isaiah Joe. So if I saw that, we're probably rerunning it.
Correct. And this is where we're getting the format. So we did get aggressive with the Celtics. So like this is where let's go back to the stack stuff like you and I talked about. And let's get rid of, like, I'm okay to get rid of the 4-man Bostons. So we'll get rid of those. We'll keep the Dallas.
Leave everything but Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Well, oh no, you want to get rid of Dallas, you're saying, or keep it?
No, keep the Dallas formats.
Wait, do you want to
get rid of Boston, OKC, and Cleveland?
Okay.
Just to see what it looks like.
I would keep the OKC, but we could do it for the exercise. I'm fine with that. All right, now we're getting more Luka because we weren't getting as much Luka before, so that's encouraging. I'm happy to see that. 66% Tatum, who we like. Derek Jones Jr., LeVert, I know I like. Luka's popping up in there. Drew, we're still getting a ton of, even though we didn't touch, which what I said was this dude is going to be very high owned at his projection. He just is. So he's someone I kind of want to be under on today, I think. Isaiah Joe, we're getting some of, even at a 14 projection, right? Because it speaks to the shooting guard position for sure. Derek White, who we bumped up a ton, like him, SGA, Jalen, Chet. I kind of like where we're at here. Is there anything off that you don't like as much, AP?
Well, I'm much higher on Donovan Mitchell, but
that's fair.
Outside of that, we're definitely good. I like the Donnie Mitch and Tatum combination. And it will be interesting with my builds once I finalize them, which I probably should get working on. What that will look like, since I'm also so high on Derek White.
To be fair, part of the exercise I kind of wanted to do to see was we're still getting, like, we were aggressive with some of these Celtics and like all the other studs. Like we were kind of aggressive with them, and we're still getting 19% Donnie Mitch, right? Like there's just a reason why. That's I think some of the reasoning why I wanted to do that exercise. So I will probably have, I won't have no Donnie Mitch, right? But it just shows that at that 45 projection, he's still going to pop no matter what. So same with Drew. That's why I kind of wanted to leave their projections where they were, because we were moving up other guys. So, but I think that's good for me. AP, do you have anything else you want to mention, or you want to get on out of here, adjust our cores and everything like that?
Yeah, no, I'm good. No. Sets up to be a fun slate.
All right, should be a fun time. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the show. Hit the like on the way out if you haven't, and we'll be back tomorrow. I think JSU tomorrow.
Yeah, JSU Big T will be on tomorrow.
Cool, sounds good. But that's gonna wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, man, going to AP. We'll see you guys later.
Man, I'm gonna hop off. Good show though. Good stuff.
Hang on. It's not off yet for some reason, just so you know.
Oh, you got it.